Thank you. The Committee on Licenses and Inspection has now been called to order. Having established quorum, to my far left, Councilman Johnson, to my immediate left, Councilman Greenlee, to my right, the Vice Chair of the Committee, Councilman Dom, to my far right, Councilman Tollenberger, and Councilman O joins us from the field. For anyone who is here for Bill number 160115, the sponsor of the bill has asked the committee to hold that. So Bill 160115, if you're here and you want to talk to the bill sponsor, you can go down and speak to her legislative staff. That is on hold with no date certain. Will the clerk read the title of Bill number 160202?
Bill number 160202, an ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code, Subcode PM, Chapter 3, General Requirements to require inspection of certain bridges, to impose reporting, remediation, and other requirements in connection therewith, all under certain terms and conditions.
The chair will recognize Councilman O for brief remarks, and then we will have the administration represented by Rebecca Swanson testify.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. Just briefly, I wanted to just explain that this bill came out of complaints that many of us have heard at community meetings about bridges in disrepair, and it turns out that they weren't city bridges or state bridges. They turned out to be private bridges. And so this bill is actually a bill which empowers licenses and inspection to require that private bridges, including skywalks, catwalks, and other types of overpasses that really should be inspected, that they be inspected, and that any hazardous or dangerous conditions be addressed within 24 hours and repairs done within 10 days. I'd like to thank Commissioner David Perry and Mike Fink because at least a good portion of this legislation was actually written by them, and particularly I really did not think about the catwalks or the skywalks, and that is something that they added. Missing from this bill will be an attempt to address abandoned railways that have pieces dropping off onto our city streets. That will have to wait for another day, but this, I think, does at least a good portion of the problems that we face. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman O. Ms. Swanson, you want to proceed?
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Sanchez and members of the Committee on Licenses and Inspections, and sponsor Councilman O. My name is Rebecca Swanson. I am the Planning Director for the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Today, I am here to provide testimony on Bill number 160202 as amended, which, if enacted, will amend the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code to require the inspection of private bridges. The bill would add to Chapter 3 of the Property Maintenance Code entitled General Requirements, a new requirement for owners of private bridges to ensure that such bridges are maintained properly. The bill defines private bridge as an elevated structure that crosses over a public right-of-way. These structures typically are built to allow pedestrian passage between buildings and thus are sometimes referred to as skywalks, catwalks, or skyways, but may also be used to support building systems that provide vehicular access to private property. The department has identified private bridges as an area of potential concern and thus supports the bill's intent to require that the owners of these bridges take proactive measures monitored by the department to ensure that their bridges are safe. Specifically, the bill requires that owners of private bridges retain a structural engineer to perform a thorough physical inspection of the bridge to detect any distressed conditions. The first inspection must be completed by July 1st, 2017, and re-inspection shall be completed every 5 years based on the original inspection date. Following each inspection, the engineer must submit a written report to the bridge owner and a summary report to the department. The report must contain specific details about the inspection methods used, the condition of the bridge, and any recommendations for repairs and maintenance, among other requirements. If the inspections detect any unsafe conditions, the owner must take any actions necessary to protect public safety within 24 hours of notification and must begin repair work within 10 days of notification. If the inspections detect any any safe conditions that would require ongoing repairs or maintenance in order to remain safe, it is incumbent upon the bridge owner to ensure that such maintenance is performed in accordance with the engineer's findings. The department will maintain a reporting program for these inspections, including collecting the initial and subsequent inspection reports, identifying bridges with missed inspections, and ensuring that the bridges with unsafe conditions are repaired in the required time period. The department maintains a similar reporting and periodic auditing program for other types of inspections that must be conducted by a professional engineer, such as our facade inspection program. We feel strongly that implementing this type of reporting program for private bridges will help protect the safety of all individuals who use or travel near these bridges. We thank Councilman O for his partnership on this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the department's testimony. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
So this is something new, but modeled after you mentioned for other inspections. What other kind of inspections do we follow the similar protocol for?
It's very specific to our facade inspections, which are required of buildings above 75 feet, so 6 stories. The building owners are required to retain the engineer to come out, take a look at the facade every 5 years. They submit reports to the department, and we collect those and ensure that they actually do it every 5 years. We then send notification if they miss an inspection, and then we would actually go out and take a look at the building if an inspection is missed. And then we, the same that's required in this bill, we review if something needs ongoing maintenance or has been declared unsafe. We're the ones that monitor that those inspections or the repairs are taken care of in 24 hours or 10 days. We kind of monitor that repair process.
What is the estimated cost around some of these services? Do we know?
As far as the cost to the department?
No, not the department, the engineer for something.
I don't have that. I mean, I can go back and take a look and let you know. As far as the department, we already have, since we already have the framework in place for the facade, it would be done by the same individuals.
For the same folks?
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, it would be interesting to find out the estimated cost for the engineer. And
yeah, I can get that to you.
As we move on to the implementation on an annual basis, let's look at how much it costs us to do these inspections or to review this material.
Okay.
Are these including when you talk about catwalks, some of those the external staircases and stuff, or no?
My understanding is it's just the one that cross a public right-of-way. Mm-hmm. I think the example that the commissioner uses is at the convention center, mm-hmm. that go over, if it's mm-hmm. Filbert there, mm-hmm. Things like that that completely cover a right-of-way where people are traveling both on it and underneath.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Councilman Zollenberger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Swanson, thank you so much for your testimony. One question, and if it's not exactly specific, it's fine with me, but is there a sense of how many bridges that would qualify for this, approximate number?
So we didn't have an exact number because I think that was part of the impetus for the bill, because we don't know where they all are. Okay. The commissioner does believe that it's in the dozens.
In the dozens, okay.
But because we don't know where they all are, is sure. really why we need the owners to take responsibility.
Understood. I just wanted to get a sense.
I can get you our exact estimate.
That would be fine.
Okay.
That would be fine. That way we are all educated and know. And Ms. Swanson, thank you very much.
I will get that to you.
So this is a self-reporting because we don't have a list?
It will be self-reporting. And it is our hope and belief that these owners will be responsible for these bridges. And again, it's something that's now on the inspector's radar, that they will be looking for these while they're out, and ensuring that, and again, we have until, the first report won't be due until July 2017, so it's going to give us some chance to kind of do our own recognizance on this, and get an estimate, like Councilman Taubenberger asked for, an estimate of how many there are.
Okay. Councilman Dahl?
Just on the cost, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. On the costs for buildings, high-rise buildings, they typically run $5,000 to $15,000 to do one of these studies. So I would assume, which is not as tall, but this could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 probably. But my other question is, like, I'm thinking of Jefferson Hospital. They have this bridge they built over Sansom Street. So this bill would cover that type of a bridge.
Yes.
And I know, and I think in your district, there's old buildings, one is abandoned, one isn't, and there's a bridge across the street that would cover that. Now, what happens when a building's abandoned and there's no owner there? Who pays for that inspection?
That would be something that I think we still would need to figure out of who, I think goes back to similarly how we, if we have to do any work on a vacant building. If it's something where the commissioner, who is obviously an engineer, determines that we probably need an engineer to look at it. Again, I don't think these details have been fully worked out, but if the department determines that it needs to be looked at by an engineer, my guess would be that we would contract out, have that done, and then lien the property. Building owner lien.
Yeah, I would think that for public safety, you have the right to do whatever you need to do to make sure it's safe and even authorize the money, because you don't want something like that falling down on the street.
No, and that, yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councilman Tollenberger?
Thank you. I do have a question, and it might actually be for the bill sponsor as well, Councilman O, just so I get this in my brain. Is there a penalty portion of this? If somebody says, you know what, let them fine me. I don't want to get involved with the city in any way.
Yes, there is.
And what is the penalty? Is it, maybe I did not read it, or?
So we would, actually flipping through, and I don't know if the councilman knows this off the top of his head quicker than I do. We would make a determination that if something needed to be fixed, and then they could appeal that to the L&I Review Board. I would have to get back to you on what we exactly do with the facades at the moment.
But that's okay. That's if they, suppose they have this, I mean, it's probably hard to hide, but they just figured, you know what, let them come after me. Whether the inspection or anything. Is there any kind of penalty in there for that?
I don't believe it's written into the bill currently. I will say that with the facades, we don't run into much non-compliance.
Okay.
Most people do turn in the required report from our yearly monitoring.
Okay, I could add that in the discussions with with L&I, I think it was actually the Streets Commissioner at the time, and now the L&I Commissioner, that the issue of penalties did come up, and the conclusion, as recommended by David Perry, was not to include penalties at this point in time. That there would be a repair schedule, and he felt that this would be satisfactory, but if there was a need for penalties, we'd amend it and add it later.
Thank you, Councilman.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And so, will the clerk read the title of Bill number 160013?
Bill number 160013, an ordinance amending Chapter 10-100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Animals by providing requirements relating to the retail sale of certain animals, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Does the sponsor want to open up with some remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to first start off with thanking all the members of the Committee on Licenses and Inspections for being here on the hearing of Bill number 160013, today regarding the banning the retail sale of animals sourced from puppy and kitten mills. I would also like to thank everyone who came down here today and showed their support of this bill. For most who may or may not know me, I am an animal lover, and I have a dog by the name of Sasha Blue, going on 4 years old, who I consider a family member. Most recently, I passed legislation that would focus on ensuring safe, livable conditions for dogs for animals who are left outside under extreme weather conditions. On the books, current legislation does not prohibit pet stores in Philadelphia from sourcing dogs and cats from puppy and kitten mills. While there is no current evidence of pet shops in the city of Philadelphia selling puppy mill and kitten mill pets, this legislation is intended to close the loophole that currently allows it in our city. This legislation does not prohibit responsible breeders from carrying on their business, but it does prohibit the sale of cats and dogs at outdoor stands and flea markets where sourcing is unclear. Similar laws have been enacted in many other jurisdictions, including Pittsburgh, Camden, and Cherry Hill. Restricting the retail sale of puppies and kittens to only those that are sourced from shelters or rescue organizations is likely to decrease the demand for puppies and kittens bred in puppy and kitten mills, and is likely to increase demand for animals from animal shelters and rescue organizations, while decreasing the amount of animals that are being euthanized in our shelters each year. I want to clarify for the record again, because some folks have reached out to my office in opposition of the bill. I want to clarify again, because the bill terminology can sometimes get lost in translation. This bill is not meant to ban the retail sale of all puppies or kittens. It would ban the retail sale of puppies and kittens sourced from puppy and kitten mills. Again, currently there isn't any happening in the city of Philadelphia, but we want to set a precedence. We should ensure that our family pets are coming from environments that are healthy and humane, and I ask for support from my colleagues for a favorable vote on Bill number 160013. It's also important that in advancing this legislation, we continue to be an advocate for our pets, and so for me, this is something that is very dear to me, and I thank everyone for coming down here for their support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. I want to recognize also Councilman Jones, who has joined the committee and, like me, has become a recent puppy owner, right? Councilman Johnson's been working all of us, and Councilman Squilla on my far left. And like Councilman Jones, I now use my puppy and walking my puppy as an opportunity to visit parts of my district. See, now everybody's talking about what kind of puppies they have. No one's cuter than my Norman, a Shih Tzu. With that, we will get started. I do want to note for the record, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 people scheduled to testify. If you submitted written testimony, it'll be part of the record. So I'm going to ask you to summarize after our first panel with Mr. Vincent Medley and Amy Jesse. You can proceed.
Good afternoon. Chairwoman Quinones-Sanchez and the members of the committee for the licensing and inspection. My name is Vincent Medley, and I am the executive director of the Animal Care and Control Team of Philadelphia, also known as ACT Philly. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to support the bill number 160013, or otherwise known as the Puppy Mill Bill, which provides requirements relating to the retail sale of dogs and cats. ACT Philly is a nonprofit organization that was formed in 2011 to meet the city's animal care and control needs, which are extensive. We are located in North Philadelphia and provide services to all of Philadelphia each and every day of the year, around the clock. Since ACT's inception, our shelter has handled an average of 30,000 animals annually. We are the largest animal service provider in the tri-state region in terms of the volume of animals handled and the request for service from citizens. Our organization enforces the municipal codes that address domestic animals and wildlife. Per this bill, pet shops that choose to offer dogs and cats for sale can only offer these animals for sale if they get them from ACT Philly or from a partner agency such as a rescue organization. Also, this bill will ban roadside sales, which means that no person can offer for sale any dog or cat on any street, public right-of-way, parkway, median, park, recreation area, outdoor market or in a parking lot. This legislation will directly benefit dogs and cats in Philadelphia so that more of these animals will hopefully obtain a forever home. Furthermore, this law is consistent with similar legislation already enacted as of May 2015 in over 30 states, including Pennsylvania, which either address a current puppy mill issue or desire to protect their community from this increasingly pervasive problem. Philadelphia will join, if this bill is enacted, more than 120 municipalities that have banned the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats from pet shops. In large part, the public dialogue surrounding the need for a public health and safety agency that addresses animal issues is inextricably tied to the number of unwanted dogs and cats born in our city every year. These births are often due to backyard breeding, which chiefly takes place in neighborhoods. As a result, unvetted and frequently unsterilized animals are placed in homes, snowballing an already out-of-control problem. While individuals will still be able to sell animals at their homes, they will not be allowed to engage in such activity in any public area outside of their own property. Act Philly commends Councilmember Johnson for recognizing that there is a community need to end the birth of unwanted dogs and cats and protect the city of Philadelphia from the increasing population of animals created by puppy mills. Thank you for this opportunity to testify, and I will be pleased to take any questions you have at this time.
We're going to hear from Ms. Amy Jesse and I guess Michelle D. Veterano also from the welfare. And then we'll ask any questions we have. You can stay there just in case. Proceed.
Hi. My name is Amy Jesse and I'm with the Humane Society of the United States. Thank you for considering this important issue, and thank you, Councilman Johnson, for sponsoring this bill. This might be my favorite panel that I've ever testified in front of based on the conversation you all just had. So we at HSUS have worked directly with many of the 135 localities across the country that have passed similar ordinances. And I'm just going to quickly explain some of the reasons this bill is so important in this city. Major cities such as Chicago and Los Angeles and most recently Boston have passed similar ordinances. But Philadelphia is unique because this is the first really major city to even consider an ordinance like this in a state that has a real puppy mill problem. There are about 800 licensed puppy mills in Pennsylvania and countless more unlicensed. And actually, coincidentally, this hearing fell on the same day as our Humane Lobby Day, so we have a bunch of advocates in Harrisburg. I don't know if you guys saw the picture I sent you, but one of the schools in Philadelphia sent a photo that they asked me to forward on to you with some banners supporting this bill. They wanted to be here, but they had already committed to being in Harrisburg. And they're talking with state legislators about this puppy mill issue. They are asking them to better regulate the puppy mills themselves. This city, it's more about the sales. That's what the real problem is here. So this bill does two really important things. It cuts off two key supply chains for puppy mills, pet stores and outdoor venues like flea markets and parking lots and even just the side of the road. This bill also is a really important consumer protection measure. It will stop Philadelphia residents from being duped into supporting a really cruel industry and also ending up with a sick or a behaviorally challenged puppy. Our investigations show over and over again that pet stores and outdoor sellers routinely lie about where their puppies come from. They'll say they come from highly regulated breeders or small, humane breeders, but documentation and when our investigations actually visit these facilities, the reality is completely different. They come from large-scale commercial breeders that keep dogs in really deplorable conditions. And because of the awful conditions that these puppies are born into, as well as overbreeding and exposure to diseases, the puppies are often sick and consumers are left with thousands of dollars of vet bills. We have a tip line and we daily receive calls from people who have purchased a puppy that ended up being sick. And it's not only the vet bills, but it's the heartbreak of bringing a sick puppy into your family. And sadly, a lot of these puppies end up dying. And then there's also behavioral issues because these puppies knew nothing but life in a cage. They were taken from their mothers too early to learn crucial behaviors. And so there's a whole slew of behavioral issues that come with these puppies. And sickness and behavioral issues are two of the top reasons that dogs end up in shelters. So there's a strong connection there. Additionally, as we've seen in other cities, these bills are accompanied by really positive media coverage and widespread public support, which I'm sure you've all already noticed. And so they serve as a really important educational tool. Not only are people exposed to the horrors of puppy mills maybes for the first time, but it encouraged adoptions from shelters and rescues, and it encouraged people to seek out truly responsible breeders who will let you see the facility, who won't hide the truth from you. And lastly, this bill will help curb pet overpopulation. We've seen this in other cities. In Los Angeles and Albuquerque, they've had ordinances in place for a while now, and we went and looked at the data before and after, and we see huge decreases in shelter intake and euthanasia rates. It's really dramatic. And so with that, I urge you to support this bill. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, we want to hear from, is there any questions? You have any questions for this bill?
Yeah, I do. I have one question and a quick statement. I absolutely support this legislation without question or hesitation. Although I don't own a dog, I love dogs. I had dogs when I was a young man. But I just don't want my question to be misinterpreted. I want you to know where I stand on this up front. But these puppy mills, one, where are they? And really, you mentioned deplorable conditions, but who is in this business of puppy mills?
Well, a lot of times they're in rural areas.
Okay.
So puppy mills originally started in the 40s when the Department of Agriculture was trying to help farmers after World War II, and they said, here's a way to make money. Start raising animals, start raising puppies like you raise farm animals. And so it's still a very rural thing. Some of these puppy mills have thousands of dogs, and those are where farms are. Missouri is the #1 puppy mill state. Iowa is a huge puppy mill state. We recently raided a puppy mill in Arkansas, which you'll hear about. And Pennsylvania has a real puppy mill problem as well. Lancaster County is infamous for the puppy mills there. There are state inspections and federal inspections, but the regulations themselves are so minimal. And
so they're somewhat regulated, but very, very minimal. And I can understand. A lot of people don't understand that Pennsylvania is the largest rural state east of the Mississippi, largest rural population. Not everybody knows that.
Right.
But and I can see that now, that if it was a project of the Department of Agriculture to help farmers, but I also see your point very, very, very clearly, and this has to be stopped, and this is one way of doing that.
Absolutely.
So I'm very much in support of it. In your estimation, in Pennsylvania, how many puppy mills do you think there are, approximately?
We know that there's about 800 that are licensed by the state. There's only 100 that are licensed by the federal government, and they both have the same criteria, so that shows you how poor the federal government is. But so there's about 800 licensed. There's many, many more that are unlicensed. Most of these facilities don't come forward. If they're caught, then they'll have to get a license. But there's many, and they can sell to pet stores without being licensed. They can sell at flea markets. They can sell over the internet. So they have these outlets where they can be completely unregulated or minimally regulated by the state or the federal government, and really keep animals in horrifying conditions.
And one last question I have. Do they generally say that, for example, they breed a particular breed of dogs? I mean, do they tell people that this is a thoroughbred dog, whatever breed it is?
Yes, so they generally are breeding purebreds or all these designer breeds that really are mutts, but they're expensive mutts because they claim that they're
mutts. Okay.
Designer.
Well, I mean, it's just another way for them to make money, is mixing certain animals and claiming that they have these perfect. And that's part of the deception, is that they sell these animals for $2,000. And in a pet store, and they make all these claims, they make all these health guarantees, and they claim, what the bloodline is, and they give you AKC papers, and they really go to great lengths to make you believe that this and you imagine that this animal came from a small, caring breeder, and it's nothing like that. It couldn't be farther from the truth. And when people and these sellers, they bank on the fact that when you bring a puppy into your family, you're going to fall in love with the puppy.
Absolutely.
And so they have return policies. But most people aren't going to return a puppy because it's sick to the same place it came from where it got sick.
Gotcha.
And so they're allowed to continue because they prey on, people falling for the cute puppy in the window, right? That's the whole sales model.
The average one, this is absolutely the final question. The puppy mills in Pennsylvania, how many puppies do they breed per year on average?
It's a wide range.
Okay.
I mean,
but don't they have to report that to somebody or to the regulators?
The licensed ones, the state reports that. I would be happy to send you the report. I don't know that off the
I'd like to see it if you have time to do it.
They publish it every year, the Pennsylvania dog law report every year, and so I'd be happy to send that to you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Councilman Don.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for your testimony. Just a question. I'm a dog lover myself, just for full disclosure. But, and Clout already reported that. But in any event,
Who eats $28 steaks?
it was my leftovers. That's for the record. Yeah.
I know, that's what I told them.
It was a leftover. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, my question is that passing, and I think we're probably all in favor of this, but passing this in Philadelphia is just basically saying we're not going to support it, right? We're not going to support it.
Right.
But
You're
getting
not
to the
gonna
root of the
sales.
problem is getting, I guess, the state to stop it.
It is. I mean, there's two ways to go after this problem, and the sales component is enormous. I can't overstate that enough. So passing a bill like this that really just deals with sales is really, really important. I mean, if puppy mills have nowhere else to sell, they won't exist. The other component is regulating the puppy mills themselves, and that does happen more on the state level and the federal level. And so we work to strengthen Pennsylvania, laws. We work in every state. We work nationally as well to improve those regulations. But it's really almost you go at it two different ways, the sales, and in most big cities, the issues is sales, right? You're not going to have a puppy mill with 1,000 dogs down the street in Philadelphia. So the sales, and we are seeing a real impact. I mean, the industry is threatened by all of these ordinances cumulatively, and they know they have to clean up their act because of them, or they will have nowhere left to sell to. And so even something like this, where you might not be stopping a pet store from doing something because there currently aren't pet stores, a city like this passing this law is a huge problem for the puppy mills.
But is your organization and others now lobbying in Harrisburg to try to get this shut down in Pennsylvania?
Today.
Okay.
It's Humane Lobby Day today.
All right,
Yes.
well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you. No comment. Beauty's in the eye of the owner. So, first of all, let me thank the sponsor of this bill who, from day one, took puppydom to another level. I think you did a doggy prom. Was it, Councilman? Did you sponsor the doggy prom or something like that?
Doggy ball.
Doggy ball. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So he's been a long-term advocate of this, and my dog is Captain Jack Jones, and we patrol the neighborhood. So he ain't supposed to be that cute. He's supposed to protect and serve. My question, however, is, by way of passing a law, how do we plan to be impactful by enforcement? What is the strategy to make sure they know that it's not business as usual?
Yes, thank you, Councilman. Our plan is to notify all of the businesses that serve animals by letter, and just to inform them of the law. And then also on the back end, if we do need them to verify where animals come from, all organizations, reputable ones that we deal with, like rescue groups and ourselves, we provide paperwork documentation of the origin of the animal. So if we got an animal from whatever source, the the pet shop should have a record that they actually got the animal from us.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Question on, how many pet stores do you believe in the city of Philadelphia are actually selling?
We right
puppies?
now, we don't have any at this point. We had one, but at this point we don't. I think the important part of this bill is that eventually, although puppy mills are exclusive in Pennsylvania to rural areas, there are cities like the last one I worked in, San Antonio, Texas, where there were several inside of the city. So this kind of cuts it off before anyone gets any ideas, because the income is substantial.
And I also understand the message that you're trying to convey, and I'm all for that. But I was just wondering, as Councilman had just asked about enforcement, really, how many people are we enforcing it with? So that was my question to you.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect of selling at roadsides and parking lots. And,
really?
And so we don't have much of that here in Philadelphia at all. However, we do get the occasional where that does happen. And one of these things is eventually, because of the income stream, a lot of puppy mills are all profit and very little overhead. And so once people get an idea of that, there is a potential for that to happen here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to move to, and I'm going to call up the next speakers. We're going to start with Michelle DiVeterano, and then we're going to go to Louis Chechia, Samantha Holbrook. Then after that, I have Portia Scott, Rebecca Glenn, Alan Bislow, Gina Moras, and Jenna Jensen. And again, unfortunately, I'm going to ask you to summarize your remarks if you've submitted written testimony, which we've received from some of you. Michelle?
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Sanchez and members of Council. My name is Michelle DiVeterano, and I'm the president of the Board of Directors for the Philadelphia Animal Welfare Society and the proud owner of the cutest shelter dog in Philadelphia. Paws was founded nearly 10 years ago in response to the tremendous pet overpopulation problem in Philadelphia. At that time, more than 30,000 stray, abandoned, and unwanted dogs and cats were entering the city's animal control shelter each year, and the vast majority were being killed because they simply had nowhere else to go. Paws began working to save lives by promoting adoption, foster care, and rescue efforts, and has since become the city's largest rescue partner. We currently rescue more than 3,000 animals a year who would otherwise be killed in the city's shelters. We place them in loving homes and then immediately return to animal control to fill their cage with other animals waiting for a chance at life. PAWS and countless other animal welfare organizations have worked tirelessly over the years to encourage the public to adopt pets from shelters and rescues rather than purchase them. As a result, adoption and rescue has finally become a widespread practice among Philadelphians looking to bring a pet into their families. PAWS recognized early on, no matter how robust our rescue efforts were, as a city we could not adopt our way out of the problem of pet homelessness. If we're to stop the killing of healthy and treatable pets in shelters, we must prevent their entry into the shelter system in the first place. This is done by helping the enormous number of Philadelphians living in or near poverty to keep and care for their pets so they do not have to abandon them in shelters due to easily treatable medical conditions. It is essential to offer free and low-cost spay-neuter surgery to these same pet owners so their dogs and cats stop having litters after litter of puppies and kittens. Since we opened our first of 2 low-cost spay, neuter, and wellness clinics 6 years ago, PAWS has provided veterinary treatment to more than 90,000 pets that would not otherwise have been treated. These pets are among those most at risk of abandonment in shelters and producing unwanted litters. These preventative measures, along with the tremendous growth in animal rescue efforts that has occurred in Philadelphia in recent years, are slowing the flow of animals into city shelters and improving the chances of survivals for those that land there. In 2015, intake at the city shelter was at an all-time low and life-saving was at an all-time high. Much progress has been made, but we still have a long way to go before the healthy and treatable pets in Philadelphia shelters are safe. For Philadelphia to become a truly humane community and to eventually achieve our ultimate goal of becoming a no-kill city where every healthy and treatable pet is guaranteed a home, we must discourage and prevent the production of animals, both by so-called backyard breeders and by puppy mills, and encourage people to obtain pets through adoption from shelters and rescue organizations. As long as animals are being killed in shelters, there can be no justification for the production of additional puppies and kittens in facilities that supply pet stores with inventory or sell them directly to the public for profit. City Council took a crucial step in 2011 when it amended Chapter 10-100 of the Philadelphia Code to require that all cats and dogs sold by retailers be spayed and neutered prior to release. By both banning roadside dog and cat sales and requiring pet stores to offer only animals that come from shelters or rescue groups, Resolution number 160013 would go even further. It would create new life-saving outlets for shelters. It would also reduce the financial burden on business owners, since shelters and rescues already provide the required spaying and neutering, vaccination, and veterinary care for their adoptable animals. It would also give pet stores a chance to become part of the solution, supporting pet adoption rather than pet production. We believe Resolution 160013 would be good for pets, consumers, business owners, and taxpayers. It would create new opportunities for shelters and rescue organizations to find loving homes for homeless pets in their care. It would ensure that people who go to pet stores looking for a cat or dog will find animals who have already been spayed, neutered, vaccinated, and vetted by an animal welfare agency. It would reduce business owners' expenses, and it would ultimately reduce the number of animals being unnecessarily killed in shelters, especially since the taxpayer is subsidizing animal control. We extend our thanks to Councilman Johnson for his dedication to animal welfare issues, for his particular support of PAWS's life-saving efforts, and for introducing Resolution number 160013. We believe it is an important step toward making Philadelphia a more humane community and ultimately a no-kill city. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Louis Checchia, and I am the Executive Director of Morris Animal Refuge, an animal shelter located at 1242 Lombard Street here in Philadelphia. Before I begin my testimony, I would just like to quickly thank Councilman Johnson for introducing such an important piece of legislation, Bill number 160013. Morris Animal Refuge was founded in 1874 and is America's first animal shelter. And since our inception, we have never turned away any animal in need from our doorsteps. Morris is an open admission shelter, and we are committed to providing the highest level of compassionate care for every animal we take in, and to do everything we can to give every animal a second chance and find forever homes for each and every one of them. This bill, Bill number 160013, will be another positive step for the Philadelphia community in finding even more homes for unwanted, neglected, and abused animals. So rather than pet shops buying puppies and kittens from nefarious puppy mills and supporting the continued existence of these abusive practices, they will instead be helping to provide even more homes for the high number of homeless animals in this community. In effect, a full 180-degree turn for the positive. The Morris Animal Refuge and the four-legged furry animals under its care fully support Bill number 160013 and also volunteers its assistance in helping to make this bill a reality. Thank you again for allowing us the time and consideration to speak in favor of this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Samantha Holbrook, and I am the president of Citizens for a No-Kill Philadelphia, a nonprofit animal welfare advocacy organization dedicated to saving the lives of healthy and treatable companion animals in Philadelphia shelters and working with the citizens of Philadelphia to prevent animals from entering our city shelter system. Our organization interacts with members of the public through various means, including public outreach events and via social media. Through these avenues, CNKP seeks to educate members of the community on how to properly care for companion animals, what to do when they encounter an animal in need, and other important issues involving animal welfare. Understanding the plight that faces many of Philadelphia's shelter animals, CNKP has in place a community help desk aimed at surrender prevention to avert animals from entering Philadelphia's shelter system. The Community Help Desk includes monthly community pet pantry events, whereby CNKP provides free pet food and supplies to low-income families, a help desk hotline run by volunteers to help provide guidance to pet owners in need, a database of low-income veterinary resources, and access to education regarding emergency preparedness. In an effort to promote adoption and rescue, CNKP also hosts its signature With Love Super Adoption Day each year, which joins dozens of area shelters and rescue groups to encourage adoption and save the lives of homeless animals in our region. CNKP's close interaction with Philadelphia's animal welfare community, and in particular, our involvement with local shelters and rescue organizations through various channels, supports the organization's heightened awareness of the importance of adoption as a crucial life-saving measure for Philadelphia's dogs and cats. Proposed Bill number 160013, introduced by Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, is a positive step toward increasing the adoption rates in Philadelphia, while also recognizing the inhumane fate that plagues dogs and cats housed in commercial breeding facilities or puppy mills. Restricting the sale of puppies and kittens originating from these mills and replacing those animals originating from mills with animals sourced from shelters or rescue organizations will not only decrease the demand for animals obtained from the mills themselves, but will also increase adoption rates and bring awareness to the Philadelphia community about the homeless dogs and cats in shelters who are equally deserving of good homes. The ordinance further prohibits the sale of dogs and cats at any outdoor, unregulated locations, which will further help curb backyard breeding by unregulated breeders and serve as a deterrent for those engaging in these practices. Not only is this bill an important measure for shelter animals in Philadelphia by promoting adoption and encouraging collaboration between nonprofit rescues and for-profit pet businesses, it also raises awareness regarding the existence and condition of puppy and kitten mills and stresses a public policy of condemning these practices. While it appears as though many pet shops in Philadelphia are moving toward the trend of offering pet adoptions from local shelter or rescue groups, this bill underscores the importance of promoting adoption over purchase and gives pet shop retailers no alternative. Citizens for No Kill Philadelphia supports Bill number 160013 as a critical measure in promoting community awareness of animal welfare and a positive step in moving toward making Philadelphia a no-kill city. I appreciate the opportunity to offer testimony and welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from this panel? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will move on to Portia Scott Palco, Rebecca Glenn, Alan Bislow, and then we'll have Gina Mraz and Jenna Jensen.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Portia Scott Palco. I own and operate Central Bark Doggy Daycare. I'm also a former member of the Animal Advisory Committee for the city, and as such, I represented the committee on the board of directors at ACCT. While all of these amazing people who are here to testify are giving you a lot of the impacts on the animals, I think that hearing what I've heard, I would like to also add to the conversation with information on impact on consumers. I see a lot of dogs on a daily basis. This morning we had a young dog start daycare. He's 6.5 months old. He shows typical symptoms of being a dog from a puppy mill. He's 6.5 months old. He was adopted, surrendered, and adopted by another person, the woman who brought him to us today. He has a lot of issues with fear. He has a lot of behavioral issues. I'm not going to go into all of them because we can fix them. But this is a woman who adopted this dog from a shelter and is now dealing with the impact of a puppy mill upbringing prior to her even obtaining the dog. I've seen multiple puppies come in with their owners, and as puppy owners yourselves, you know that feeling, that love you get. And if your dog gets diarrhea or has a problem, you panic, almost like it's a kid. These dogs have problem upon problem, behavioral, medical, social issues. And they're young, they shouldn't have these, but being bred in puppy mills, being bred of poor stock, being bred of dogs that are kept in cages just for the purpose of reproduction causes these problems. And as the consumers, as residents of Philadelphia, having to deal with these problems through inaction on our part, is heartbreaking. So if we continue to move forward with this and if it passes, I think it will have a positive impact on the citizens of the city who do obtain their dogs from stores, well, and by extension, I guess, shelters too. I also, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and honorable members of this committee. My name is Rebecca Glenn Dinwoody, and I serve as in-house counsel and director of humane litigation at the Pennsylvania SPCA, headquartered in Hunting Park. The PSPCA has Humane Society police officers who enforce the state animal cruelty code. We serve search warrants, we cite, we arrest, and we prosecute, and we see firsthand the inhumane practices of puppy mills. I also want to thank this committee for considering my testimony, this bill, this afternoon. Councilman Johnson, thank you for introducing it. As a former intern with Councilman Jones, I'm very happy to be back in council chambers. Thank you, sir. I am here in part to tell you the story of a dog. Her name is Hazel Grace. She's a 3-year-old German Shepherd with the typical tan and black markings, prick ears, and highly intelligent eyes. Hazel Grace's case is the result of a search warrant executed by the Pennsylvania SPCA in Lancaster County in a puppy mill about 7 months ago. The goal of puppy mills is to make money, make as much money as possible. They don't consider the welfare of the animals, and they don't consider the cost to the consumer. Puppy mill dogs often live in unsanitary conditions. Their females are bred constantly, they receive very little to no veterinary care. These animals are no longer able, those animals that are no longer able to breed due to age or injury are simply culled. As a result, puppy mills flourish on providing sick or easily sickened animals to those who cannot check the health of the animal first. Puppy mills sell to pet stores for that reason. I distinctly remember that September day in Lancaster County. It was sunny and warm when I turned into a kennel area and saw Hazel Grace. She sat in a small kennel with chain-link walls and a plain concrete floor. The drain to her kennel had at some point become clogged, and her own waste backed into her living area. She had it on her paws. She had it on her body. She also had 2 very large and untreated masses, one on her head and one on her hind end under her leg, and she had clearly been bred numerous times to provide puppies for sale, and indeed was currently heavily pregnant. In a neighboring kennel was a litter of black and brindle or striped boxer puppies. Their tails had been illegally docked or cut off using a pair of orange desk scissors. I want to tell you that this story is unusual or that this story is particularly odd. Unfortunately, at the PSPCA, we see it regularly, and we are also familiar with the problem's effects on the people in Philadelphia. Pet stores sell these puppies for sometimes thousands of dollars, or refuse or simply fail to tell consumers of the conditions the puppy came from, what illnesses it had, or it has predisposed to. Philadelphians unknowingly buy these puppies, bond with these puppies, and are left shocked and speechless when it gets sick. In this situation is the Philadelphia consumer who is paying the cost for puppy mill breeders to stay in business. As all pet owners know, myself included, veterinary care can be very expensive, and sometimes decisions have to be made. The well-intentioned owner, desperate to get the animal the care it needs, has no choice but sometimes to give it up to a city shelter. Instead, then, is the Philadelphia taxpayer paying the bill for the veterinary care. It is the taxpayer paying to house, to feed, and to care for the animal. It is the taxpayers paying the cost for puppy mill breeders to stay in business. Hazel Grace has a happy ending. I prosecuted the illegal breeder for animal cruelty, and he was found guilty on all counts. Our veterinarians cared for Hazel Grace when she gave birth to a large puppy who we named Amazing Grace. Both Hazel Grace and her daughter found adoptive homes and now enjoy warmth, cleanliness, and love. The puppy miller's cost of doing business should not be foisted upon Philadelphia consumers and taxpayers, and I ask for your support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions in regards to Pennsylvania-specific issues in regards to this bill.
Thank you. We will hear from Alan.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Alan Braslow. I live in Cherry Hill. We were referenced earlier by Councilman Johnson, and I appreciate it. I've been involved with dog rescue for over 25 years. I'm here today as a representative of Best Friends Animal Society, the largest no-kill shelter in the country, the group that took the Michael Vick dogs and that's how I met them for the last 10 years, going out there on a regular basis to work with these dogs, of which the positive thing is of 23, 19 of them were adopted to homes. 4 of them are still there being treated one-on-one at the cost of the sanctuary. They have individual handlers taking care of them because they were so messed up from the result of the fight ring that they could not, by the judge's order, be released out to the public. Except when I go out there, I get licked to death because they're so friendly. I'm also an active member of CART, Camden County. That's the County Animal Response Team. I'm certified by FEMA for rapid response and animal rescue situations, both for large animals and small animals. I'm certified tester observer for the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. I'm on the advisory board and active with Don't Bully Us Rescue, which also supports ACT. We pull dogs from them whenever, it seems like whenever we get a phone call, it's drive over and can you help us, and we love to. And I work with many animal control officers to assist in trap, neuter, release, and rather than just putting down cats. And like my wife says, and I actually work for a living, I'm vice president of sales for a major corporation in my spare time, I think. We had puppy mill stores in Cherry Hill a number of years ago that closed, and I never thought that one would open up again in our town. I've been there for 35 years. But one did, and it put us in a very difficult position because the way the law works, we could not close it by passing a banning ordinance. New stores we could ban, but we were stuck with this store because it was grandfathered in by having met all compliance and whatever. The only thing we could do was picket the store. So the short story is we protested for 3.5 months. We had great press coverage. We were out 8 times a week, had close to 100 people at any time. Nice. We even had some of the Cherry Hill police officers joining us to make sure that nobody would give us a hard time, and we all acted like adults. It was very, very professional. We ended up having Jeff Nash, who is a freeholder in the county. Jeff helped us pass Norman's Law. The interesting part is knowing that as a resolution it couldn't be enforced, but it was a statement of position. And we have managed to pass over 33 ordinances in local townships since, some of them in other counties. And with the folks that I've been working with, we continue at a rate of 2 to 3 ordinances being passed. The reason we have done this is to protect ourselves and protect cities like Philadelphia from having to go through what we went through in Cherry Hill, is to react rather than be proactive. By proactively passing the ordinance or the law that Councilman Johnson is proposing, you eliminate that step that we went through that took 3.5 months, a lot of time, a lot of aggravation, and a lot of money to stop something that we could have prevented from happening. On a positive side, 5.5 months after the young man who had opened up this puppy store decided that he couldn't handle all of us anymore and decided he needed to make a change, we have rescued and adopted out over 600 puppies as of this weekend that would have been killed in kill shelters. He converted his other store to a rescue as well. Nice. From a guy who hated us, loves us, he's helping us go after other puppy stores to help close them down. He has become a huge advocate, and he said we have changed his life from a business of 25 years in the family where they were bringing in puppy mill dogs. He has become a bigger advocate, I think, than we could be, and he helps us go after other stores in New Jersey to close them down. He even knew I was coming here today and says, do you want me to come over? I'd like to be there as well. But he has 35 puppies that he's got the vet looking at that are being looked at today that just came in from another rescue. I really appreciate what you folks are doing. I totally support. We are available in our group of independent residents to help in any way we can. I did want to share something with you because, Councilman, you had asked a question of what they come from, if I may.
Yes.
Give you this.
We have a clerk, our clerk.
These are pictures. I do the raids. I've been doing this as a volunteer for years.
Start over there,
that is what puppy mills look like. The best analogy is, imagine a beagle living in a cage the size of a dishwasher its entire life, never being groomed, never being touched by a human being. And those are some of the better ones. If you'll notice, they're all chicken wire fences. It is the most horrendous experience you ever go through. Usually I keep it together when I'm there, and then I go home and my wife has to listen to me whining and complaining. Anytime you can prevent those dogs from being sold, those 600 lives are 600 rescued dogs in 5 months that we've placed. That's 600 dogs that were not sold by puppy mills. And I thank you very much for your support.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your commitment to the cause. We have two final witnesses, a Gina Mraz and a Jenna Jensen. The amendment, I move the amendment to Bill 1602. No, you're right. So you move the amendment to be accepted. Because we don't need the suspension. Almost until the amendment. Here's where you say with suspension.
All right, good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you so much, Councilman Johnson, for introducing this bill. My name is Jenna Jensen, and I'm with the Humane Society of the United States. So last month, I was a part of a raid in Arkansas where nearly 300 dogs were removed from a puppy mill. The owner of the puppy mill did not have a USDA license, but clearly should have. She was selling puppies in pet stores, outdoor markets, as well as over the internet. The breeder's home, which I visited last month, was my first rescue mission, and it involved an aerator mask and latex gloves, an indication of the type of conditions I was about to experience. The inside of the breeder's home was filled with junk, and her floors were coated in feces and urine. My team and I rescued several puppies housed in her kitchen that were crammed into a rusted wire cage lacking any food or water. We also rescued a mother Doberman and her puppies from a bedroom filled with waste and debris, a scene you can only imagine. Outside of the home were many different types of housing facilities for the dogs. Despite the differences in structures, much else remained the same. They all lacked basic food and water. They were covered in feces and urine. Many were filled with trash and other debris, and several lacked proper shelter from the elements. Not only were the housing conditions appalling, so were the standards of care. Almost all of the dogs were severely matted and had dental disease. A majority of them had overgrown toenails and could barely walk. Dogs were found with mange and some with open wounds. Several of them had eye and/or skin infections, and numerous were infested with ticks. The conditions in which these dogs were housed and the manner in which they were cared for reveal the true intentions of the breeder to maximize profits. This is a puppy mill. There are thousands like it across the country, and until there are no more pet stores to sell to and no more parking lots and flea markets to sell at, puppy mill cruelty will remain. Philadelphia can and should cut off these two key supply chains, as many other cities have already done. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for considering this ordinance. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Councilman Johnson, for introducing this really important bill, and thank you all for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Gina Mraz. I'm the manager of the Puppy Mills campaign for the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. On behalf of the nearly 5,000 supporters that are of the ASPCA who are residents of the city of Philadelphia and the over 2 million members nationwide, I'm here to express the ASPCA's strong support for the proposed ordinance brought before the City Council today concerning the sale of dogs and cats being sold in pet stores in Philadelphia. The ASPCA believes that most pet store puppies come from puppy mills, and so we urge the public not to financially support pet stores that sustain this cruel industry. A puppy mill is a large-scale commercial breeding operation where profit is given priority over the well-being of the dogs. Puppy mills generally house dogs in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, which you've heard about today, without vet care, food, water, or socialization. I'm going to briefly now just talk about the industry as a whole and talk about some issues with the federal regulation of puppy mills. Pet stores typically get their dogs from puppy brokers or middlemen who buy their dogs from USDA licensed breeders. Although USDA licensure may sound like an assurance of the utmost animal welfare, it is no such thing. The standards of care required by the USDA are woefully inadequate and not what most of us would consider humane. Under the Federal Animal Welfare Act, which is enforced by the USDA, Dogs in commercial breeding facilities can be legally kept in cages only 6 inches longer than the dog in each direction, stacked one on top of another for their entire lives. It is completely legal to house dogs in cages with wire flooring and to breed dogs at every heat cycle. So as you can see, even full compliance with the Federal Animal Welfare Act provides no guarantee that these dogs are living in humane conditions. Even if the standards were adequate, enforcement by the USDA is abysmal at best. The USDA consistently takes little to no action against violators and fails to cite violations, resulting in inadequate follow-up inspections. To illustrate just how serious and pervasive this problem is, the ASPCA created a consumer tool on our NoPetStorePuppies.com website that allows the public to see inside USDA licensed breeding facilities. The site includes over 21,000 photos taken inside facilities licensed by the USDA during routine inspections that reveal disturbingly inhumane conditions and suffering at many facilities. In many cases, we were able to draw a direct link from particular pet stores to the breeders who have supplied them with puppies, with the ultimate goal of allowing consumers to see firsthand where pet stores in their area are obtaining puppies they sell. The sheer volume of photos, over 21,000, clearly indicates that these problems are systemic, rather than simply the actions of a few bad breeders. Passage of this bill will protect Philadelphia's consumers and keep puppy mill puppies out of local pet stores. For the foregoing reasons, I respectfully urge you to vote in favor of the proposed ordinance prohibiting the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores. Thank you.
Any questions for this panel? Anyone here else to testify on this bill? Councilman Johnson, you have closing remarks, or we're going to go into our meeting? You want to wait until then? Okay. We now end the hearing on the Committee of Licenses and Inspection, and we will move now to our public meeting. Councilman Johnson, you want to add before we take a vote? Anything else?
I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of your schedules and being here today, and lending your support, but most importantly, your voice and your advocacy on this very critically and important issue. And this one personally say is very appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We did not realize, understanding that we have 800 licensed mills in the state of Pennsylvania. Hopefully by closing out the Philadelphia market for them, we're helping. So thank you very much. So with that, I am going to ask for a motion on the amendment to bill number 160202. Vice Chair Dahl?
I'm getting coached here is my first time. But thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move that the amended bill,
No, the amendment.
the amendment, Bill 160202, be reported from this committee with a favorable...
No, be adopted, period.
Be adopted
Sorry.
from this committee. Okay.
All in favor? Aye. No opposition? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. Can you give me a motion on the amended bill?
Thank you. I move that the amended bill 160202 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any oppositions? Seeing none, bill number 160202 will be moved out of this committee with a favorable recommendation and with the rule suspension. Can I get a motion on bill 160013?
Move that bill number 160013 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, bill 160013 will be reported favorably out of this committee, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading at our next public session. Thank you very much. This concludes our hearing.